right, so the first evidence that protein was important came from this study that came out of Michael Kerr's laboratory in Denmark, so in Copenhagen. And so what they had shown is if they took individuals and they measured this idea of protein intake and strength, so they looked at strength adaptations, and this is at 4 weeks and 8 weeks, if they were to have people take protein either immediately after or 2 hours after. And so there's a couple of interesting things here. First of all is that it seems like the ones who waited 2 hours before they ate the protein aren't having as big of a strength increase as the ones that ate the protein initially. And I'll explain to you why that is. But the other thing that is evidence is there's a protein effect here. And I'll show you that in the next slide. But basically the reason that we say that this is interesting is because this idea bred this notion of this anabolic window. And so the idea here is that if you don't eat your protein soon enough after exercise, you won't get as much of an anabolic effect of the protein. And so you're not going to get as big and strong. So that's why you see people walking around their gym with their little shaker cups and they're already drinking protein like as soon as they're finished because they don't want to miss the anabolic window. And the reality is that this is not as big a deal as it seems in this study. And the reason that it is a big deal in this study is because this is in old people. And as we're going to see as we go through this, one of the things that happens as you get older is you become less sensitive to insulin. And one of the things that insulin does is it opens up blood vessels that gets the amino acids to go to your muscles. And so as you get older, if you're becoming more insulin resistant, you need to time your feeding a little bit closer to your exercise so that your exercise is allowing blood flow to increase to those muscles. And so the result is, because there's more blood flow, you can get more of the amino acids to this. If you do this in young individuals, you don't see this anabolic window effect where the slope of this line is less than this line simply because you've timed it 2 hours later. And they did also show that if you took the protein immediately after versus you waited 2 hours, in these older people, you got hypertrophy if you took it immediately after, and you didn't if you took it 2 hours later. And again, this is this idea of anabolic resistance that you see in old people, where if you don't time your exercise and nutrition well, you don't see the same increase in strength and increase in muscle mass that you do in young. But it is specific to protein because if you take a look at, these are people who took in an isocaloric amount of carbohydrate, so the same number of calories from carbohydrate versus protein, you see the protein gets an increase in cross-sectional area of type 1 fibers, whereas there's no change in the carbohydrate group. And again, the protein group increase in cross-sectional area of the fibers in the protein group, but not in the carbohydrate group. So there's no benefit to taking carbohydrate after exercise, and we talked about why that was in the last time. Because what carbohydrate does, it increases insulin, and insulin is then going to work to move TSC2, but your resistance exercises already move TSC2. So the idea is that it's not about calories at this point. It's not about just getting a certain amount of calories, that there's something special about the protein. And so the question really becomes, what is special about the protein? We knew that protein was special even before the 2001 study that I showed you out of Denmark, because already in 1999, this is from Kevin Tipton, who's now a professor in England. He's from Wisconsin originally, and so what he's showing here is that if you take people and you give them a placebo, you give them mixed amino acids, all 20, or you give them the essential amino acids plus arginine, so you're giving them 10 amino acids, 9 essentials, and then arginine. What you can see is that when you do resistance exercise and you look at protein synthesis, breakdown, and balance, there's not a control group, but protein synthesis in the control group would be about 20 nanomoles of phenylalanine per minute per 100 milliliters. It goes up. So synthesis goes up in the placebo, but what you should see is that the breakdown is higher than the synthesis. Okay, and the breakdown being higher than the synthesis means that net balance is that you're losing muscle mass. Okay, so this is really important because this isn't something you would see normally, but this is a research study, and so all of these research subjects showed up to the laboratory in an overnight fasted situation. So they were fasting, and so that's why you see this increase in synthesis, but a greater increase in breakdown. The result is net balance. All you have to do is feed the 20 amino acids. Sure, synthesis goes up. It goes up probably double what it went up before, but there's no effect on breakdown. But now a synthesis is slightly higher than breakdown, so we're getting this positive balance. So you need to eat, and you need to eat protein in order for you to see the anabolic effects of your exercise. Now here's the interesting part. When you give essential amino acids, synthesis rate increases to the same degree, equivalent degree. The thing is that breakdown goes down. Okay, so I want you guys to consider why breakdown goes down when you give the essential amino acids, and what that tells us about why protein degradation goes up after exercise. Because this is one of the clues as to what's regulating protein breakdown. So you have to remember that these are individuals in an overnight fasted situation, and it's essentially like you're trying to build a wall. And your muscle is going to be a wall, so what you're going to do is you're going to take a brick from your brick pile, and you're going to add it into your wall, and you're going to build your wall. But at a certain point, if the guy last night didn't drop any bricks off, and you didn't get any bricks this morning, you're going to run out of bricks pretty fast. And then what you would have to do is you'd have to find bricks from somewhere else. And so what you do is you take bricks out of an old piece of wall and you put it back in there. So you start taking bricks from the older bit of wall. So you're breaking down muscle in order to liberate. And what you're liberating is the essential amino acids, because you can't build the new protein unless you have the essential amino acids. The only way you get these is by eating. And when you do a mixed amino acids, there's half the dose of essentials. So you don't have the sufficient essential amino acids to block this effect. Okay, so basically what this is suggesting is that muscle protein synthesis goes up with exercise. It goes up again with exercise plus amino acids. And then if you give essential amino acids, we can block a little bit of the degradation that you're getting. And the result is we can accumulate or increase the balance more. And so the way that this works, one of the important things that happens is that amino acids following intake or following resistance exercise go up. So if you've fed with a protein and you look at, this is the exercise leg relative to the control leg. So what you do is you see 25% more leucine in the exercise leg than a contralateral leg, so a leg on the other side of the body, had the exact same amino acid dose, but the other leg didn't exercise. So, and it's really specifically some of the branch chains, but it's really specific amino acids. And leucine's one of the key ones, as I'll show you in a little bit. So leucine, isoleucine, glutamine, all of these amino acids are going up. If we look across the amino acids that go up, it's the majority of amino acids go up. Valine here isn't going up in this situation, but that's probably because it's being incorporated into protein already. Okay, so what happens is right after resistance exercise, there's an increase in amino acid uptake from the blood that's specific to the exercise muscle. If you've fed a leucine or a protein specifically with essential amino acids, now what you're going to do is you're going to decrease breakdown, increase synthesis. And what you can see also is that your synthesis rate doesn't go up quite as high if it's just the essentials. Because again, if you're trying to make a wall and you're trying to make a rainbow colored wall and you've got a very specific pattern as to how to make it, now if you don't have as many of the, say you don't have as many of the yellow bricks, and the yellow bricks are one of the bricks that you have a lot of in the mixed group, but not so many in the essentials because it's not an essential. But if you don't have enough of the yellow bricks, you have to slow down your synthesis rate again. And again, you're going to increase your breakdown. So what it's doing is it's telling us that in order to maximize synthesis, we want all 20 amino acids. In order to minimize degradation, we want to make sure that there's a high enough concentration of the essentials, because we're going to increase our uptake. So that so if you only work your upper body, like we see all these guys at the gym, they have these little tiny legs and these big upper bodies. One of the reasons is because you lift your upper body, amino acids are going to start getting integrated into your upper body muscle mass more than your lower body. And so you're going to get this extra signal that you don't get in your lower body.